caught me dusting off my collection. Always looking to add to it, so it's always getting a little bit bigger. But one thing everybody always asks me is, good old boy, why Dale Earnhardt? And what on earth does he have to do with professional wrestling? Well, nothing really. But it's not as much about the racing as it is about the man and what he stood for. Hard work, persistence, and determination. See, you may not know the Dale Earnhardt that I know. So let me introduce you. I hope you found a seat, because I got a lot of explaining to do. You see, Dale had a real long career, so we got a lot to get to. Born in Kannapolis, North Carolina, to Ralph and Martha Earnhardt, Dale was always destined to be a driver. Having grown up around the local short tracks in the area, it also helped that his dad, Ralph, was one of the top drivers on the scene. And Dale made sure to follow his dad to the track every weekend, watching him turn wrenches and pack the grandstand benches. Eventually, Ralph would race in NASCAR's Sportsman Division, the equivalent of NASCAR's second-tier feeder series today, NASCAR Xfinity Series. Ralph didn't make things easy on Dale either. When Dale wanted to go racing, his dad made him get his own car, equipment, and he had to get it race ready himself. A fun story is actually one of his first race cars was supposed to be light blue, but there was actually a mix-up at the paint shop, and the car turned out to be light pink. But that didn't stop Dale. He still raced the car. That's right, the man in black was once pretty in pink. Now, Dale's obsession with racing was his one goal. It was the one thing he was meant to do with his life. He took out a loan, worked multiple jobs, and lived in the trailer behind his parents' home while he worked out of his dad's garage, barely staying afloat to make it enough to get to the next race. The struggle became more prevalent when, in September of 1973, Dale lost his father, Ralph, to a heart attack at the family home. But Dale didn't let it stop him from chasing his dreams. He kept plugging away at the short tracks around Kannapolis and eventually made his NASCAR debut in the NASCAR Sportsman Division in 1974 and the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, the top division in NASCAR, in 1975 at the sport's longest race, the World 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. After this, Dale struggles and bounces around from ride to ride and gets a few more one-off opportunities before he lands a real chance with a full-time ride with Rod Osterlund Racing in 1979. Dale would win his first race and the Rookie of the Year that year. Osterlund signed Earnhardt to a 5-year deal, and the next season, Dale wins the 1980 Winston Cup Championship, becoming the first driver to win the Rookie of the Year one year and follow it up with the Winston Cup the next year. Rod Osterlund, though, was bought out 4 races into the 1981 season. Dale didn't jive with the new owners either, so he jumped ship. He would join a small-time outfit with another guy from North Carolina, Richard Childress. Things didn't go as planned, and as suggested by Richard Childress himself, Dale leaves Richard Childress Racing and joins a more well-suited outfit in Bud Moore Racing. Here, Earnhardt would race the number 15 and be sponsored by Wrangler Jeans. It's with Bud Moore Racing that Dale had many of his infamous moments, from his pass in the grass to winning the first of his many 125 qualifying races at Daytona. There were a lot of highs, but a lot of lows too. A nasty wreck with Tim Richmond at Pocono left him with a broken ankle and saw him sit out 2 races. And in 1982 alone, Dale failed to finish in 18 of 30 races that season. 1983 wasn't much better either, seeing Dale fail to finish in 13 of 30 races. But that season he did rebound, winning 2 races. In 1984, Dale returned to Richard Childress Racing. Little did Dale know then, he had just returned to his forever home. In 1984 and 85, Dale won 6 times and finished 4th and 6th in the final season standings. This was the beginning of a trend in the right direction. 1986 saw Dale capture his 2nd NASCAR Winston Cup championship, his first with Richard Childress and Richard Childress Racing. That season he won 5 races, had 16 top 5s, and 23 top 10 finishes. In 1987, Dale would repeat and win his 3rd NASCAR Winston Cup championship. That season, the team won 11 times, set the modern era record with 4 race wins in a row, and won 5 of the first 7 races at the start of the season. 1987 is the year he earned his infamous nickname, the Intimidator, due in part to how he races his competitors on the track. Dale was a take-no-prisoners driver. If you were in his way, he would move you. If you stood between him and first place, he wouldn't hesitate to wreck you. This made Dale a polarizing figure with both drivers and race fans. In 1988, Dale dropped the Wrangler sponsorship for his now famous GM Goodrich black Chevy and changed his number to the iconic 3 we know him for today. But 88 didn't go as planned, winning only 3 times and finishing 3rd in the final season standing points. In 1989, Dale fared somewhat better, winning 5 times in the season, but would still lose out on the season championship to eventual champion Rusty Wallace by 12 points. Dale and RCR were in a slump, but things were set to change in 1990. That year, Dale and RCR showed up to Daytona Speed Weeks with a renewed vigor. Determined to finally get Dale a win at the Daytona 500, NASCAR's biggest race of the year, and capture his 4th championship. Dale would win the Busch Clash at Daytona that year, a non-points paying race the week before the Daytona 500. He also won his 125 qualifying race the Thursday before the Daytona 500 as well. Things looked like they were lined up for Dale to finally win the big one. In fact, during the race, Dale would have a 40-second lead over second place. But a late race caution brought the field back together, and now Derek Cope, the second place driver, was running right behind Dale on the last lap. Going into turn 3, Dale had the lead, when suddenly his car went up the track and he lost pace. Derek Cope sailed by and would go on to win the race, his only NASCAR win. Entering turn 3, Dale had run over a small piece of metal that would cut his tire, dashing his hopes for a Daytona 500 victory. The loss of the Daytona 500 didn't slow Dale and RCR down though. As they would win 9 races that season en route to Dale's 4th NASCAR Winston Cup championship. In 1991, Dale would win the NASCAR Winston Cup championship again. Back to back, baby! Marking his 5th NASCAR championship that season with 4 wins and his closest competitor 195 points behind at the end of the season. That's an ass whooping. But in 1992, that momentum came to a grinding halt. Dale would only win 1 time and finish a career low 12th in the championship. The poor performance would result in a crew chief change for the 1993 season, and this would propel the man in black back to the front. In 93, Dale would come oh so close to winning the Daytona 500 again, dominating Speed Weeks before losing out to the eventual Daytona 500 winner, Dale Jarrett. That year, Dale won 6 times en route to his 6th NASCAR Winston Cup championship. Now talk began about a 7th Winston Cup championship, and tying the other man to only do it ever in the history of NASCAR, Richard Petty, the King. And in 1994, Dale would do what many thought unimaginable. Behind the strength of 4 wins, 20 top 5, 25 top 10 finishes, Dale would win his 7th NASCAR Winston Cup championship by 400 points over his closest competitor. There was no doubt in anyone's mind now, Dale was one of the greatest drivers of all time. Having tied Richard Petty with his 7th title, talk now began of a record-setting 8th. 1995 started off strong, finishing 2nd again in the Daytona 500. He would win 5 races that season, but ultimately lost the championship by 34 points to a little-known driver by the name of Jeff Gordon. I've never heard that name before. In 96, Earnhardt began the year with RCR strong, just like they did in 1993, dominating at Daytona only to come up short yet again at the Daytona 500, finishing 2nd to Dale Jarrett once more. The season was going strong until an accident at Talladega sent Earnhardt head-on into the wall at almost 200 miles per hour. The accident was horrifying and left fans holding their breath as they waited to see if the man in black would emerge from his ride. In a testament to his strength, Earnhardt got out of his car into his own power, but the accident severely affected him for the rest of 1996, and he didn't win again and eventually finished 4th in the points. In 1997, Earnhardt went winless for only the 2nd time in his career. Once again, he was in the hunt for the Daytona 500, wrecking out of the lead with only 10 laps to go. Some said the effects of the accident at Talladega were still affecting Dale. At that year's Southern 500, Dale blacked out, hit the wall, and was followed by disorientation, which made it difficult for him to find his pit stall. Many wondered if Dale should retire. He finished the season winless, 5th in points, with only 7 top 5s and 16 top 10s. But in 1998, things were finally set to change for Dale. At that year's Daytona 500, Dale's 20th attempt at the Great American Race, Dale was given a lucky penny before the race by a Make-A-Wish child, Wesson Miller, telling him it would bring him good luck during the race. Dale glued that penny to his dashboard. Earnhardt showed himself to be a contender, running up front for most of the day, but it was Jeff Gordon who was leading the way. However, at lap 138, Dale would take the lead thanks to a push from his RCR teammate Mike Skinner. Earnhardt would go on to lead the remainder of the race, and a caution with 2 laps to go sealed the deal. And Earnhardt would go on to finally win, on his 20th try, NASCAR's biggest race, the Daytona 500. The win was such a huge occasion, every member from every crew lined pit road to congratulate Dale. In fact, Dale couldn't find victory lane, so he turned right and carved a 3 in the infield grass. Despite the great momentum to start the season, Dale would finish 1998 8th in the points. In 1999, with his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his Cup debut, many fans began to speculate if Dale might be headed towards retirement. But Dale would shrug those talks off with 3 wins, 2 at Talladega, and a strong 7th place finish in the final stand. In 2000, Earnhardt would have somewhat of a career resurgence, as he would go on to win 2 times, have 13 top 5s, and 24 top 10s. This includes an incredible Talladega win where he would pass 15 cars in the last 8 laps to win the race. It was behind this momentum that many thought Dale could still compete for that elusive 8th championship in 2001. Despite the momentum, there was a black cloud hanging over the NASCAR garage at Daytona for Speed Weeks in 2001. You see, during the 2000 season, NASCAR lost 3 drivers to fatal accidents. 1 driver in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and 2 Cup Series drivers at the same track for NASCAR Winston Cup Series races. One of those drivers was Adam Petty, grandson to the King, Richard Petty. All 3 drivers died of basal skull fractures, an injury that had plagued race car drivers since the inception of NASCAR racing. In light of this, many major open wheel series like IndyCar had mandated things like the Hans device or head and neck restraint system. However, NASCAR, despite all 3 deaths, did not make any such changes for the 2001 season. Before the start of the Daytona 500, Dale seemed to have everything set for his future. RCR and Earnhardt were running up front again, and he had just started his own team, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. He was fielding 3 cars for that year's Daytona 500, driven by Steve Park, Michael Waltrip, and his son, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale appeared more confident than ever, running up front for majority of the race, even leading 17 laps. On lap 173, with the cars he owned being driven by Michael Waltrip and Dale Jr. running first and second, a huge 18-car crash took place on the back straightaway. It saw Tony Stewart cartwheel down the back straightaway, and it even stopped the race. During the stoppage, Dale came over the radio and remarked to Richard, "Richard, if they don't do something about these cars, they're going to kill somebody." The race restarted with 20 laps to go on lap 180. As the laps wound down, Dale found himself running in 3rd place, right behind his team cars of Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Jr. In uncharacteristic fashion, Earnhardt spent the closing laps doing his best to hold Sterling Marlin and the rest of the field back, blocking them from any attempt to pass Michael or Dale Jr. And on the final lap, heading into the final turn, Dale made the slightest contact with Marlin, losing control, hitting the track apron, and shooting back up the track, collecting Ken Schrader before hitting the retaining wall at a critical angle at a speed of 160 miles per hour. On TV, the wreck looked harmless. As the camera followed Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr., Dale Sr.'s team cars to the finish line to finish 1st and 2nd at NASCAR's biggest race. Despite what seemed like a harmless crash, the impact and the speed was severe enough that it broke the rear assembly off of Dale's race car. In the booth, an elated Dale Waltrip, who had just watched his brother win the Daytona 500, suddenly shifted his concern to his buddy Dale Earnhardt. The safety team immediately swarmed Dale's car. He was cut from the race car and taken to the Halifax Medical Center. where at 5:15 p.m., Dale Earnhardt Sr. was pronounced dead from a basal skull fracture. The death shook the NASCAR world, and race fans across the nation mourned. It even got picked up in the national media, with one newspaper dubbing it Black Sunday. However, in the weeks following the accident, NASCAR began to make immediate safety improvements, first mandating that all drivers wear Hans devices or something similar at all NASCAR sanctioned events. Even though NASCAR had lost Dale Earnhardt, arguably its biggest driver ever, the safety changes implemented from his death have resulted in no other driver losing their life during a NASCAR race. Okay. You're probably saying to yourself, sure, good old boy. Dale was a great NASCAR driver and arguably had a huge impact on the sport. But what on earth does he have to do with wrestling? Well, it's not about the championships Dale won, or how many race wins Dale had, or even how many fans Dale had. It's about what Dale stood for. Dale had a never say die attitude. When he fell, he dusted himself off, got back off, and did it all over again. He took winning to a whole other level. In his mind, second place was just the first loser. And if you were in his way, he didn't hesitate to wreck you to get to the checkered flag. Was that cheating? Maybe. But some would say that rubbin's racing. In the end, it didn't matter to him if you cheered him or booed him. As long as you were reacting, Dale knew he was doing something right. For me, that's the same mindset I take with me each and every time I get to go to the ring. In the end, it's about chasing the glory of that W. And some would say it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you do. And heck, some fans may cheer you for it, and others may boo you. But you know one thing, whether it's cheering or booing, if the crowd's reacting, you know you're doing something right. But beyond that, it's the tenacity Dale had and his never say die attitude. One of my favorite stories of Dale is the 1997 Daytona 500. In his 19th attempt, racing with 10 laps to go, Dale gets turned upside down on the back straightaway. His race is ruined and his car is destroyed. But Dale doesn't just hop out of the car and call it a day. Instead, Dale drove that sumbitch back to pit road, slapped a little duct tape on it, and finished the race. He may not have won, but he didn't give up either. That never say die attitude is something I carry with me every day. I may face setbacks in the ring, things like losses, injuries, or heck, maybe not even getting on a show. But I can't let those things keep me down. I can't let it end my race. Not here, not now. Because if Dale Sr. taught me one thing, it is sometimes you gotta throw a little duct tape on it and finish the race. So if you're still asking yourself, Logan, why Dale Earnhardt? Well, it's because he truly is one of the last great American heroes, whose story teaches you about hard work, determination, and perseverance. And those are qualities needed to be successful in this business and in life. Now, as I move forward into 2025, I'm looking forward to raising hell and praising Dale better than ever before. And I hope to see a few more threes in the air when I'm doing it too.